Meanwhile, Senator Marco Rubio will be on the Treasure Coast tomorrow to tour that toxic blue-green algae. And we have Rubio with us right now. Senator, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
No, we appreciate it. Actually, you made my wife happy. She was asking me just a couple days ago, when's Rubio going to be on the algae issue? Because we've really been frustrated by watching. It's kind of like that scene from Austin Powers where you got the guys getting ready to get rolled over, and you see it coming slowly but surely, and then it happens. The algae has been a real problem down here, and so I know a lot of folks are happy in South Florida that you are stepping up on this algae issue. Tell us what the next step is.
Well, and we've been on it now for 3 years since the last time it happened, and none of the answers are always satisfactory because they take time to make happen, but a lot of the focus is on the water being held in Lake Okeechobee. Everybody wants the Corps of Engineers to hold water back. The problem there is the Corps of Engineers they have blinders on. I mean, their focus is to ensure that the dike that there isn't a breach. They don't want to see flooding. That's their number one concern. And so as a result, as you know, they're working through projects to replace 26 of the culverts and reinforce the aging dike. They have 18 under contract. They have another 8 that'll be in contract over the next 4 years. But here's the catch. Even if all of that is improved, it will make the dike stronger, but they still intend to release as much water, especially in the rainy season, because they also argue that it's bad for the ecology of Lake Okeechobee to have too much water there. So that's the problem there. So what is the answer? The ultimate answer here is to allow more water, instead of being discharged east and west, to be discharged into the Everglades. And that's why this year, I've been working on this for a couple of years, I finally got my colleague from Oklahoma, Jim Inhofe, to agree to the Central Everglades Planning Project. And the purpose of that is to deliver a finalized plan known as the Project Implementation Report that will then allow Congress to authorize a bunch of restoration projects in the Central Everglades, and then what they call the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan. So we got that passed. It's now in the bill. Obviously, it has to happen in the full Senate and on the floor. Again, we have to get all that done. But we've made some progress there as a result of it. But it's not, again, everything moves at a glacial pace around here in this place, but at least we overcame that hurdle.
No doubt, no doubt. So here's my question as kind of a follow-up, and it's liable to be a dumb question. So everybody wants to know, who is it that we can reach out to that can actually get something done? Because the problem is here right now, and I understand what you're talking about coming from your perspective. And a lot of people have been pointing towards the governor. Well, we know that the governor can't stop the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers from doing what they're doing. A lot of people have taken a look at local officials. They've also declared a state of emergency. Does it take literally like the President of the United States to go to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and say, stop it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Corps of Engineers is from the Army, so obviously they respond to the Commander-in-Chief. But from an engineering standpoint, these guys are not responsive to political pressure. I mean, their view is we're not going to let the dike ever be compromised, and that's our number one job, is to ensure that there isn't a massive flood that happens if the dike fails. And that's what they're focused on. They get it. They see the algae bloom stuff, but that's not their mandate. It's part of the issue that you have in the federal government with all these different silos. I know none of these answers are satisfactory, but even if they held, my understanding is they may be holding back more water now today and tomorrow, but even if they did, this will happen again until we can get more water flowing south instead of east and west. And that's why this Everglades funding is important. These projects have to move forward. There's an additional project that's called 10 Mile, the 10 Mile project that was originally a federal project. It's kind of like a retention pond, basically. The contractor the federal government hired screwed it up, and so it can't hold as much water as it was supposed to. I took that project away from the federal government. I gave it to the state. The state is now it's already improving it. It'll be able to hold a little bit more water. That will help a little bit. But ultimately, there is only one way to keep this from happening over and over again, and that is to get more water released south. And for that to happen, we have got to get the Everglades Restoration Project moving. And that's why I spent 2 years, on my colleague Jim Inhofe, a good friend from Oklahoma who didn't want to do it, to finally agree to do it. It was a big step. Now we got to get it done, and we keep pushing to get full passage in the House and Senate. Because I'm pretty sure the president will sign it.
Well, we certainly appreciate the efforts you're making. You're listening to The Morning Rush. It's Brian Joel Malkin along with Senator Marco Rubio. And you're also working on another environmental project right now in Key Biscayne with Senator Nelson. Tell us what is going on with that preserve project.
Well, look, the coral reefs there and the reefs in that area are very important, and we want to protect them. We also want to see more input from Fish and Wildlife and the state in that regard. They've closed off a vast area to recreational fishing. I'm not sure that I think the plan that they put together went too far. At a minimum, there should be more input from the Fish and Wildlife because these things interact with one another. So Senator Nelson and I got together. We worked very well together, and we finally came up with this compromise that doesn't give the Florida Fish and Wildlife a veto over any sort of plan that comes out of the federal government, but it does allow them to have more formal input about what the plan looks like. And we think if that works in Biscayne Bay, it'll work everywhere. Look, no, I'm an avid fisherman. We're out all the time. We're in Flamingo in the Everglades. We go out to Biscayne Bay. We're down in the Keys. There is no one who wants to see all this stuff protected more than I do. It would be a catastrophe for us to lose the natural beauty, particularly of the oceans that surround us. But I think that can be balanced with access, too. And that's what we're trying to find here is a good balance so we don't go overboard in one direction versus the other.
All right, moving away from environmental issues, got a few real quick hitters for you, Senator. So, biggest issue facing Americans right now?
Well, the biggest issue facing Americans right now, in my opinion, is obviously there are broader economic issues that we'll need to confront and solve in the debt. But right now, the most emergent issue that the federal government needs to be focused on is the threat from radical Islamic terror, period. That is the most important job of the federal government, our national security, and to keep us safe. And we are facing the very real threat of this evolving Islamic threat that we face, a radical Islamic threat that we face, whether it's people that are inspired to conduct attacks like what happened in Orlando or directed to conduct attacks like what we saw in Turkey. The threat from radical Islamic terror, in particular from ISIS, is one that is morphing into something even harder to confront.
Why should people vote for Donald Trump?
Well, first of all, I tell people, I don't agree with Donald on everything. By the way, that's not just Donald. There's other Republicans I don't agree with on everything. I can tell you I disagree with Hillary Clinton on everything, virtually everything. And if you look at how can we elect Hillary Clinton, she faces significant ethical issues. The Benghazi report a couple of days ago makes clear of how, at a minimum, incompetent her State Department was in protecting the lives of 4 Americans who died in the service of our country. She supported virtually every major foreign policy initiative of this president that has proven disastrous. The reset with Russia, the deal with Iran, the release of terrorists from Guantanamo. I mean, she cannot. Her election to the presidency will be a continuation of the policies that we've seen over the last 8 years. And so if you're unhappy with the direction of America, you can't vote for Hillary Clinton. And, Donald is going to have an opportunity here now over the next few weeks to professionalize his campaign and begin to speak out with more clarity on some specific issues. And I think if he does that, and I anticipate he will, as people say he's going to, then I think you're going to see him win.
One more question for you. It's the hardest one yet. Mm-hmm. How many games will the Miami Dolphins win this year?
This one's in honor of me. This one's in honor of me, by the way.
Well, let me tell you, man, I've suffered. I mean, I don't know. I've suffered. But, if the Cleveland Cavaliers could win that championship, we don't have a LeBron, of course, coming back, but they look good on paper. They've added some nice young talent, I like this new head coach from everything I see, but they got to line up and play. I don't know. I think right now, I don't know. I'll be optimistic. How about 10? How about 10 games?
Wow. All right. I don't think I'd go that far.
You don't? All right. Well, it depends, right? It depends on Ryan.
All right. All right. We'll see. All right. Senator Marco Rubio, thank you for joining us here on the Morning Rush.
Thank you.